What happens in the sky affects life down here on Earth. The celestial compass shows you how and guides your way with astrology you can use from professional astrologer Kathy Beal. Every episode features her light-hearted, practical forecasts and navigational tips, blended with humor, optimism, and a love of patterns, symbolism, and pop culture references. Kathy translates technicalities into concepts that apply to real life. You'll learn how the current moment ties to where we've been, from the recent past to cycles that last happened years ago, and get a look at where we're heading. And much more, from special topics to special guests. The Celestial Compass, enlightening, entertaining, and empowering. Here's your host, Kathy Beal.
Greetings, Earthlings. Welcome to Celestial Compass. I'm Kathy Beal, and I'm going to start today by updating the astrology for the rest of the month of July, just pointing out a few big things for you to take into account. And remember, you can read my full forecasts at empowermentunlimited.net and also omtimes.com. And if you prefer to listen, on my professional Aquarian YouTube channel. So the first thing keep in mind is Mercury has just stationed retrograde. The planet of communication will be retrograde until August 11th. This is a particularly important one because of the spot in the zodiac where it started. It's also important because it's in a fire sign, and there are other retrogrades going on in fire right now, meaning that there could be a good deal of passion and even excitement or hot-headedness behind or in the middle of some of the miscommunications that may be going on. You can also have a lot of energy to tackle old business and to clear up miscommunications from the past. That's thing one. Thing two, on July 24th, we have a new moon in the sign of Leo, which is also where Mercury is retrograding. And this new moon is going to interact with all of the outer planets, which are at the very beginning of their signs. We have an unusual and pretty much unprecedented configuration of energies happening this summer that are really shaking up and offering many opportunities to change the way we approach pretty much everything in life. And right now, this new moon offers the opportunity for us to incorporate into our sense of self all of the changes that have been going on and adapt ourselves or re-outfit ourselves so that we can shine and flourish no matter what's going on out there. I would encourage you to have fun with it. And also, if you have any kind of pyro streak, this is a good time to play with it. The third thing I want to bring to your attention is that at the end of the month, Venus is going to move into the sign of Cancer. And this is going to offer us a soft place while all of this change and chaos is going on around us. Venus, wherever she is in the sky, has a lot to do with the general atmosphere. I call her the social director of the sky. She has a lot to do with how we treat each other, what's important to us at the moment. She's currently in the sign of Gemini, which is one of the friend zones, lots of talk, lots of palling around, lots of running in every which way. But when she moves into Cancer, she's going to start collaborating with Jupiter, already in Cancer. Jupiter, the guy that ups any action he gets near. And this is going to encourage indulgence and nurturing and taking really good care of yourself. And in fact, I have proclaimed the day that they meet, which is August 12th, as Take Your Teddy Bear to Work Day. So you have that to look forward to. Again, much more about all this in my forecasts, which are at empowermentunlimited.net and Om Times and the Professional Aquarian YouTube channel. And now I am very pleased to welcome my friend and colleague, Louise Edington. Some of you know her because we collaborate weekly on political astrology on both of our channels, but we're here today to have her talk about the book she is releasing about a series about Ceres and astrology. But first, just a little background for those of you who don't know Louise. She's been studying and practicing astrology for more than 30 years and working professionally as an evolutionary and shamanic astrologer since 2012. She's known as the Cosmic Owl of Cosmic Owl Astrology, and she loves to combine all of her passions as an astrologer, author, shamanic practitioner, and certified hypnotherapy and past life regression therapist. This is not her first book. She's also the author of The Complete Guide to Astrology and Tarot, The Complete Guide to Astrology, Modern Astrology Harness the Stars to Discover Your Soul's True Purpose, and now Ceres in Astrology, Nourishment, Power, and the Rebirth of the Feminine. Hey, Louise, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me, Kathy. Always a pleasure, of
Certainly.
course.
Show people your shirt.
Oh, yes.
Beware, for I am fearless and therefore powerful. Mary Shelley. Excellent, excellent, excellent.
And it's
All
it's very appropriate for Ceres, I think, because, you know, she's underestimated. That's one of the theses of my book. So,
well, okay. Well, let's see. Let's back into this. You have an interest and actually a huge knowledge of a lot of bodies that haven't traditionally been paid attention to in astrology or given much. So just in general, how did you kind of gravitate that way?
well, I think it's just my Gemini moon. I just want to understand everything, right? And to bring the shamanic part in as well. When I say shamanic practitioner, I kind of talk to the planets and the energies in a shamanic manner. I do journeys to them, and each one of the so-called extra bodies really kind of came to me when there was either a transit to them, or I would read something about them and discover where they were in my chart and realize they were really in a strong position in my chart. And so, you know, as they came to me, I started studying them. You know, I'm more of a, well, I'm Sagittarius stellium, so I learn by experience more than book reading. So.
Before we go into these specifically, am I correct that most of these bodies that have been undervalued are named for goddesses?
Yes, most of them are. Yes.
There's a bit of the feminine, a streak of her being kept quiet in all of
Yeah.
this.
Oh, definitely. And oh, you know, as you could probably tell by the T-shirt, I'm very feminist. So that's another reason I would be drawn to them, I think, because I found astrology. Clearly, always loved astrology. But as I studied it deeper and deeper, I found it was very patriarchal. A lot of the myths were based on male interpretations of the myths, and a lot of the how the feminine bodies, for want of a better word, were talked about was also kind of very patriarchal and controlling. So I also love exploring myths. So I just deep dive into as much as possible. So.
So how did Ceres find you?
Well, like most people, I read Asteroid Goddesses first by Demetra George. And, you know, so I had a basic understanding of Ceres, Pallas Athena, Juno, the one she covers in that book. And of course, it's an excellent book. But then I discovered, so my birth time, for a long time, I believed it was 9:10 a.m. And that would have made me to Capricorn rising. And so I went with that chart for a longest time because my mother was firm that it's 9:10 a.m. in the morning, and she's Taurus, by the way, so she won't be convinced otherwise. But but then I went to my first astrology conference, and all these other astrologers I was chatting to, they were like, "You're not Capricorn rising. You're Sagittarius rising." And so I used some basic rectification techniques and rectified my chart. Then I had it professionally rectified because I'd never taken a rectification course. And we both got the same time, which made my ascendant 28 degrees Sag, almost 29. And then there was Ceres at 2 Capricorn. She'd been sat right on my ascendant the whole time. And I hadn't really looked at her in that it felt like she was uncovered. And then she's square my nodes as well. So she's obviously an important part of my chart. And so I started to kind of notice when transits happened to my series, and then I started working with clients and learned more and more. I've been doing some presentations on series for quite a few years. I did some about 5 years ago, but the research and the practicing went deeper and deeper and deeper until I became convinced that she is not an asteroid at all. I mean, for a start, she's round. Asteroids are not round. She contains water. She's actually just inside the asteroid belt. She's not on the far side of it. And my theory is that she is a missing personal planet. So that would mean we had the sun, the moon, Venus, Mars, and Mercury and Ceres, because they were actually paired together in the Roman pantheon of gods and goddesses, the Dei Consentis, before Christianity hit. So, Ceres used to be really honored and powerful as a goddess, and as Demeter before her, she was even more honored. And even Demeter, I believe, comes from really ancient kind of mother goddess worship kind of thing. So
there's so many ways I want to take this.
Sorry?
There's so many ways I want to take this. Just briefly about the actual body. Ceres is bigger than some bodies that are considered planets. Is that correct?
She is, yeah. I can't remember the exact diameter offhand, but in 2006, after Eris was discovered, the disruptor, she was reclassified as a dwarf planet, as Pluto was reclassified from planet to dwarf planet. And we have this whole new class of planets. I kind of, don't pay too much attention to the classification of astronomers because, well, I study everything, as you know, Cassie. A lot of scientists and astronomers are realizing there's more to this than these rigid definitions, but astronomers love to classify. And then, so I started, so after 2006, with that, I started to, explore, why is she a dwarf planet? She was actually called a planet at first. When she was first discovered, January the 1st, 1801, after the first discovery after Uranus from our perspective, culture, she was called a planet at first, but then after all the asteroids were discovered, she was called an asteroid and kind of ignored for a long time. So.
Okay, so going to the next thing that really caught my attention, I want to talk about. Can you talk some about her role in mythology? Because that will lead to what she's associated with astrologically.
Yeah, most people associate her with the myth of Ceres, which is the Roman goddess Ceres, where she was actually, the goddess of the grain. She, as this statues of goddess Ceres on so many government buildings in this country and lots of other countries. She is associated with that because the main story that her myth is based on is the rape of Persephone, her daughter. She had a daughter that she wanted to keep quite innocent, and the story is that Hades flew by and kidnapped Persephone, took her into the underworld, and long story short, Persephone ended up eating some pomegranate seeds, which is kind of related to the, tree of knowledge, right? And then, long story short, she was reunited with Persephone in the end, but she had to spend 6 months in the underworld with Hades or Pluto, and 6 months above ground with her mother. And then these rites were reenacted through many mystery rites, most notably when she was known as Demeter in Greece, the Eleusinian Mysteries. That's a story of reunification. But there's a lot more to Ceres and Demeter than that. You know, if you read further into the myths, there's a lot to do with reuniting kind of mind, body, and spirit, or to speak in shamanic terms, the underworld, middle world, and upper world, or triple moon goddess within you, all these trinities. There's also, she's very associated with the harvest, because she actually, in the myths, she was said to have stopped the harvest on the earth, created a famine because of her grief and loss of her daughter. And I relate that to climate change in many ways, and how we treat each other, and what we are doing to each other and the earth with the way we live, because we have lost that nurturing principle to a degree, not in individuals, but, you know, as a collective.
So I'm hearing that grief is a factor in Ceres' influence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, grief and loss. Yeah. And I do notice her showing up with people when they are grieving, you know, loss of something, or loss of anything really. But people grieve about what we're doing to the planet, but also it can show up in your personal chart as, you know, some kind of grief and loss through death, or just you know, separation in some ways. Really, it's about grief about separation. You could, in all ways, of how we've lost this connection with everything that is. And now we're kind of moving into this quantum realm, where we know that we are in this quantum reality. Quantum physicists are proving it. We know that everything's connected. You know, we're connected to the mushrooms, the plants, each other, the earth, what's above. It's all kind of bouncing off each other. And we've had this illusion of separation for centuries. And those who really are want to maintain that separation and control are trying to hang on to it with their fingernails, which is why I think the book and people starting to work with Ceres as astrologers, to my mind, is really important right now.
Because it's a counterpoint.
It's a counterpoint. It balances things. If you think about that, Sun, Moon, Venus, Mars, then Mercury and Ceres, and just where they are in the planets, the Mercury closest to the Sun, Ceres just before the asteroid belt, that's all contained within the asteroid belt. Those are our most personal planets before we go off to Jupiter and Saturn and things. And it's balanced. It's brought that balance within every single one of us.
Do you have a sign association in your mind for Ceres? Say Virgo?
Well, I think Taurus mainly.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm not the only astrologer that thinks that, but also I think she has associations with Virgo as well. But she was discovered in Taurus at 23 degrees 23 minutes, which is one
Magic.
of my favorite numbers, magic number. It's also the number of pairs of DNA we have, and number of digits, 10 fingers, 10 toes, 2 ears and a nose, and all those 23 things. But also on her discovery date, Algol was at 2323 Taurus at the same time. And, you know, I kind of feel like this is all come into our consciousness for us to change and realize that there is no separation within or without. So.
Okay. So, how Was it just organic that you decided you wanted to write this book? You found yourself thinking about her a whole lot, or did you have
Yeah.
her show up in a dream and say, "I give you this mission, write about me"?
No, no, this time, this one built more slowly. It kind of I started writing it quite a long time ago, more from, the presentations I'd done in the past, which had not got everything I put in this book. And I just, because she's angular for me, she's right on my ascendant and square the nodes, it just seems like it was part of my purpose to bring her more into our consciousness and to encourage people to include her in charts and work with her. I mean, people have, accepted Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Even like really traditional astrologers will often use those. Why not Ceres?
Um, the thought just went shoop.
Sorry.
No. So, um,
I will say I
you were
think she
yes.
gets ignored quite a lot because she is just this small feminine figure. She still most people still call her an asteroid, and yeah.
Well, I
So I
do
had
know.
felt an urgency to get the book out to tell people she's
Oh,
not.
okay. So that just did the Venus retrograde spur that more for you? Were you
It did it spurred the final push, I will say. The last Venus retrograde, yeah, with Venus and Mercury moving from Aries into Pisces, and also the fact, and I talk about this in the book, there is a cycle with Venus, Ceres, and Pluto, where they were actually conjunct at 0 Aries, which we know is a hot degree right now because of Saturn and Neptune coming up, and Venus and Mercury were retrograde over that degree. That was not long after her discovery. I can't remember the exact year, it's in the book. But then last December the 7th, there was a conjunction of Venus, Ceres, and Pluto at 0 Aquarius, which is also another really hot degree because we had the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction there, a Mars-Venus conjunction, several other conjunctions. I did a whole video on that on my YouTube called Fools and Lovers. But I see Venus, Ceres, and Pluto as kind of like the 3 parts of the Demeter, Persephone, Hades story, right? And so these conjunctions are to me, a big invitation to integrate all that energy back together again. So
Where is she currently? Do you remember?
she's in Aries right now. I think she's at 4. She's actually, no, she's at 15 Aries. She's actually in a trine aspect, or unbroken flow aspect, as you love to call it, with Mercury in Leo, which is the station retrograde. And the two of them are actually going to swap directions. Mercury is going to turn direct on August the 11th, and Ceres will turn retrograde on August the 11th. And they're in this ongoing relationship again. And remember, I think she's kind of the boundary crosses or the boundary edges, the two of them. So she's just so many things just keep pinging me for why she's important now. We had a Venus-Uranus conjunction, not the last one, which was at 29 Taurus, but the one before was actually at 23 degrees, 23 minutes, her exact discovery point in Taurus. And I was like, oh, well, that's waking us up to something again. So,
And that was around the time that Algol was also at 23. Yeah. So you can't sleepwalk anymore with any of this. It seems to me. Not at all. Not at all.
Not at all. No.
So,
And these triple conjunctions of Venus, Pluto, and Ceres are quite rare. They're the only two. Well, they are the only two I've found, and they happen to be at 0 degrees, the world point 0 Aries, and then 0 Aquarius. And I just think there's something really special about that, because I like the numbers and the degrees too. So,
So there's a message coming through with this very, very clearly.
Yes.
So to elaborate a bit more, if you were looking at Ceres in a chart, what's the scope of what you would see it encompassing? Resources, you say needs met, what?
Resources, but it's more about I'm Marshall Rosenberg. Have you heard of him? Nonviolent communication. He talked about unmet needs. Okay, and so I see her in a nutshell, really, about our needs, both emotional, physical, spiritual, all the things that sustain us and feed us. So it depending, obviously, as you know, when you look at a whole chart, it depends on the sign, the house it's in, the aspects. But it's not the mother a lot, even though she's kind of called the Great Mother. It's more about how your upbringing and the society you live in and the family you were brought up in has nurtured your needs and met your needs. Some people's I've probably got a second book to look at case studies at some point. I've got a whole load of people who filled out a survey for me, and some people had, felt very fulfilled. They felt their upbringing, their family, whatever, felt very fulfilled and felt their needs were met. I'd say most people don't, in some way, and this is not to blame the parents, because this is another, this is about the whole picture of the society they're brought up in, the ancestral patterns, all this kind of how we nurture and nourish our needs, or how our needs have been met. I can't remember the one at 0 Aries offhand. It's in my book, Gandhari.
We're going to take a break, so everyone hang out.
Right.
We'll be back in just a couple of minutes.
Om Times TV.
Want help with your own celestial compass? Visit my site, empowermentunlimited.net, for Astro Insight forecasts for each week, month, and new and full moon. Want to explore the personal impact? Make a decision? Understand another person? It is possible. Click the Services tab to book a personal session with me. That address again? empowermentunlimited.net.
Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. Om Times Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, Om Times offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an Om Times magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on Om Times TV and broadcasting it across the extensive Om Times radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. Om Times. Open yourself to the possibilities.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. If we could find a way to get inside each other's minds. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Well, before you abuse, criticize, and accuse. Walk a mile in my shoes.
Welcome back to Celestial Compass. I'm talking today with my friend and colleague, Louise Edington, about her new book, Ceres in Astrology. Yay.
And it was March 4th, 1823, the date. of the
the date.
conjunction at 0 Aries. Yeah.
Ceres,
Of course
Venus,
it
and
was
Virgo is 0 Aries.
1823. Of course it was a 20.
Of course. So you talk in your book about generational impact
Mm,
or generational influences. Can you
mm.
expand on that? Give people a preview?
Yeah, well, I think she works with the generations as we know them. I go through, say, if you were born with Pluto in Scorpio or Virgo, and then with mixed with Ceres in different signs, because I think they work together. Because she is a personal planet, I think there's these micro generations within the generations, which was kind of interesting because I was listening to a whole podcast about Generation X this morning as I walked, because I've never felt part of the generation I'm supposedly in. And I think that it's too simplistic, and there are micro generations. And again, it's kind of about the changes and the big transformations that we've been going through with Pluto, Uranus, Neptune, as we discovered all of those bigger energies. And can see Ceres working together, and it kind of, without reading the whole book, it's kind of like how you operate and what fills your needs, and how you're discovering how things don't or have not met your needs. I mean, I have Ceres in Capricorn, 2 Capricorn, really smack between my ascendant and Saturn in Capricorn. And I can see it clearly showing up in my life and my upbringing, being born into a very patriarchal home with 3 younger brothers, where my mother was very young. So she would be, one, very busy with my brothers, but also, wanting to do things with my dad. Also, my dad worked away a lot of the time. I was given this huge responsibility all the time. I was basically kind of, left as babysitter from about age 9, things like that. A lot of my emotional needs and things were not met, because I was basically seen as a woman who looks after the men, kind of thing. Let's
Mhm.
put it. And I'm not complaining, but it's clear that in my chart that's what it represented. And as we know, Capricorn can be very stoic and stiff upper lip, and Saturn in Capricorn. So it took me a long time to really acknowledge that, even though I kind of knew at an intellectual level. To realize it took a lot to unpack that. So integrating all of these parts into your client readings, especially if they're being activated by a transit, which is when I think people can really kind of feel the energies more, can help them to unpack and understand themselves better. So I've discovered, really, I'm the only one that can really fill my needs. That's, I've married a wonderful husband, but I don't rely on him to fill my needs. He does, but I'm not clinging and things like that. I've realized that, in a way, Capricorn, it's me. I'm on my own. I'm a unique being, and if I do all my self-care and make sure all my needs are met, then I feel happier and more fulfilled. Does that kind of explain it more?
Yeah, and it also seems to me with what you're saying
Mm,
that if you can use Ceres and her relationship with the outermost planets as a way of
mm,
defining microgenerations, there might
mm,
be an age group, like a slice
mhm.
going through very similar issues at the same time. Like,
Yeah, for sure. 'Cause I'm Pluto in Virgo generation, and my Pluto and my Neptune and my Saturn are all in aspect to each other. So that's a very specific kind of generation, in many ways. Pluto and Neptune, of course, have been speaking to each other by sextile since, I think, the '40s was when it really kicked in.
mhm.
But add in Saturn into the mix, that's a real kind of, um, something was blocked somewhere, I would say, or given too much early responsibility as well to care for others. And of course, combine that with Pluto in Virgo, which is very much about service and doing for others. You're building up an even deeper picture.
So, okay, my brain, I'm having Mercury retrograde brain with this. Self-care. All right, that's where I'm heading towards. So you and I have been on a soapbox of preaching self-care for I don't know, a year.
Yeah, and I was doing it already in my Substack blog as well. Like often,
Right. So
usually daily.
how does Ceres fit into this, to the notion
Well,
of self-care?
yeah, I think Ceres is a good place to go to in your chart when you can look for what kind of self-care really kind of lights you up. Because when I say self-care, I'm not necessarily meaning about going for the manicures and more. That's it. But though if you like that, that's fine. I'm talking about things that really make you feel happier, whole, more fulfilled. And for example, one of mine is walking, but it's walking on my own, which is very Capricornian, right? I've had lots of people over the years I've been walking go, I'll come with you one morning. And I'm thinking, no, this is my time. I have to do it alone. It's like, so I think you can look to your chart and it's first house for me as well. So it's looking after me. So, I think self-care can mean very different things for different people. And I've come to that by working with Ceres, but also from unpacking and deeper understanding of myself through my natal chart, because it's endless, as you know. You can discover more and more about yourself all the time, particularly when they're activated by aspects.
So how does this parlay into sacred care?
Well, self-care, sacred care, I think is pretty much the same thing. It's to my mind, it's really that self-care that makes you feel you're really whole and connected. And then once you're have you heard of internal family systems? Parts work, it's known as. It's kind of a
No.
new it's a new therapeutic thing that kind of went from talk therapy, talking about what others have done or do, to a lot of therapy now is doing this in parts work or internal family systems that is about creating intimacy from the inside out. Ceres has been really active in the chart of the development of internal family systems because it is about creating intimacy from the inside out. And I kind of knew this already. I knew that when you feel more whole and happy within yourself, you are more likely to be in a healthy relationship or friend relationships too, rather than just thinking that's what you should do or going, you need, you complete me, that kind of relationship. The relationships often last longer and are much, much healthier when people come from a place of wholeness. And so Ceres seems to represent that to me as well. So I don't diminish her as just your mother. I think the moon in a natal chart still represents your actual mother more than Ceres does. It's more about the whole nourishment and nurturing of you, your community, and the earth, I'm going to say. So,
So you also look at other bodies that are traditionally seen as a little more peripheral, and they're all female. So how do you think she fits in with Eris and Pallas and Juno?
Yeah, well, with Vesta, Pallas, and Juno particularly, those three were discovered in quick succession after Ceres' discovery. And for anybody that pre-orders signed copies of my book, I've also created a mini PDF that's going to be going out soon as I mail the books, called Ceres and Her Sisters. I see them as almost like Ceres sisters, but more kind of well, not servants, but certainly companions. That's more a better word. They're her companions in this journey. So if I couldn't go into all this in the book, but if you go back and read a lot about the old goddess times and Maria Gimbutas, people like that, a lot of these lesser goddesses, I guess you might call them, although there's nothing lesser about them really, were kind of companions to the great mother goddess. It's like that whole piece that's been missing of the sacred feminine, you could say, that's kind of been hidden in plain sight within patriarchal religions. Many people believe the Holy Spirit in the main Trinity we know is the divine feminine, but she's been kind of ignored a little bit, right? So, but this carries on through all kinds of myths, and they all play their part. Pallas, Juno, they're all kind of different faces to me of the godhead, one godhead, if you like. And I think they do show up in astrology that way, as do some of the other lesser known Eris and things like that. But some people believe some of these bodies, particularly the centaurs, Chiron's wife Chariclo, I'm thinking of as one, Okyuroi, who's their daughter, their divine child, that they have come in to just help us to find this rebalancing and this remembering of the ancient ways, and that they might wander off again at some point, the centaurs, because they're quite unusual bodies. But Ceres is very much there, right? She is this solid, round object within the asteroid belt that we are contained by and protected by in many ways. So I see her as a protector. I see her as kind of like encompassing mother. You could almost see like her arms as the asteroid belt around the Earth, protecting everything that's on it and within it. So, and the planets I see as the parts in the parts work of the internal family systems. So
going back to the centaurs for just 1 second. So they are all named after figures that were centaurs in Greek myths, correct? All right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
their unusual structure, they're strange little things. They're not really asteroids, are they? No one knows what they are, anything about them?
Some of them have been discovered to have rings. Some of them look more like comets. Chiron, I think, has been called a comet, and a centaur and a few other things. So, yeah, they are unusual. Yeah. I don't think anybody really knows what to do with them astronomically. But anyway, yeah, go on.
But astrologically, they have some kind of healing streak, healing
Mm.
component, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And since 1781, when Uranus was discovered and broke the bounds, I believe that all of these bodies have come into our consciousness to teach us something and to remember something, and how we work with them will determine where we go collectively long term. But I wanted to start with Ceres because of this belief that she is a personal planet. I might have books in me for some of the others, particularly the centaurs. They speak to me in a lot of ways. So, yeah. Chariclo is amazing. I've done some videos on her on YouTube. So her name literally means spinner of grace, and she is a space holder and kind of like a cosmic doula and midwife. So because she cared for Chiron while he was wounded before he gave up his immortality for Prometheus. That's a whole other story.
How would you suggest that people start to get to know Ceres, besides reading your book, which is the first good step?
Yeah, read the book, but also, just look where she is in your chart. Like I said, I work very experientially. So if you look where she is in your chart and try and really blend the house, the sign, the aspects, less so the house, I think, because of all this fighting over which house system's good, but more the sign and aspects, and what she speaks to, and then think about how that relates to your life. If you've got the ability and the software to do it, another good way is to look back at major transits to your series. For example, shortly after we moved here, Pluto was going over my series. So I'm not surprised Pluto uncovered all of this. So, yeah. And so if you notice the transits and try and think back about what came up for you, her placement in my chart is even reflected in my actual birth, with it being so close to the birth line. My mum was only 21 and on her own completely, because my dad, men were not in the birthing room then, and it was my mum on her own, very young, with some midwives, and it sounds quite kind of lonely, really, doesn't it?
But that's the way it was. So
It was, yeah. Yeah.
Were you taken away from her really quickly? Do you
Yeah,
know?
I was, yeah, and she couldn't breastfeed as well for some
That
reason.
sounds like
Mhm,
a
mhm.
Saturnian series, doesn't it?
Oh, doesn't it? Yeah, she
Wow.
didn't like it. Ugh, breastfeeding,
Wow.
apparently. Yeah. So, she will show up if you but that's because my series is right on my birth line. So, it might have different aspects for you. So, mhm.
So is there anything else you'd like people to know before we move on to some random things? Anything else about the book?
The book, it's out on August the 12th. I'm actually publishing it officially, even though I've got signed copies available for pre-order. I'm actually launching it on the day that Venus and Jupiter and Sirius meet at 14 Cancer, and that's square to Ceres in Aries. So, it just seemed like a really fortuitous day. So look for that. That's the day it will officially be released on Amazon and in other book places that you can buy. It's going out everywhere. I'm self-publishing, so that's quite a journey, learning how to do that and learning how to get it out to everywhere. But anything else I want people to know? Well, if you pre-order, you get the Ceres and her sisters PDF as well, and a lovely little card in the book from me with a signed copy. And I just think she's really special. So I hope me getting the book out there. I do notice there are other people talking about her more lately, which is fantastic, because I think she is a big part of us moving into this new paradigm, age of Aquarius, whatever you want to call it. I think that we began moving into that when Uranus broke the bounds, and then she was the second one. So we're moving into a different paradigm completely, right?
And people can get this from sacredthreads.com or where?
Sacredthreadsimprint.com for now. Yeah. I'm hoping for the official pre-order link on Amazon soon, but that won't be a signed copy. So if you want a signed copy, that's my self-publishing website.
So, what else is occupying your mind these days astrologically?
Oh, you know me, Kathy. Well, really, this impending and active now mini grand trine between Pluto, Uranus, and Neptune, and Saturn as well is there, and how that is developing and growing, and how it was seeded in the 60s. particularly around in July of next year, when they are at probably their most exact mini grand trine. It kind of comes and goes for a little bit. There's I've not been able to find it. Other astrologers are talking about it. There's been no recorded time in history where all these outers changed signs at the same time, pretty much. But then if we bring in Haumea, she just moved into Scorpio fully last year, which is she's birth. She is very much about creation. And, you can bring in some of the others. We're in an extraordinary time. And what's most on my mind is, how do we as astrologers, I don't predict, I forecast, but how can we forecast something what we've never experienced before? And we're trying to feel our way into it, right? Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I remember I said to a colleague early in January that my guess was, looking at all that, we were going to have a new internet. And she said, "What do you mean? What do you mean new internet? What is that?" I went, "I don't know, but there are, the Saturn Neptune conjunction is
Mhm.
the internet was created under one, and we've got Uranus moving into Gemini, and that collaboration that you're talking about,
Yeah.
I suspect, is going to spawn a lot of new platforms, new
Oh, I
ways of doing things, new collaborations."
new tech, I've long been suggesting that we might finally get unlimited clean energy fusion of some point too. With all of this, change is going to happen really fast. That's one thing I know. If anybody's noticed, since Uranus has dipped into Gemini, things have gone woohoo crazy. And yeah, we can look back at history to when Uranus was in Gemini. There's lots of videos on that out there. And we can look back at when Pluto was in Aquarius, but all three of them speaking to each other. And there's one other thing, going back to the centaurs. Cariclo, the space holder and cosmic doula, was discovered on February the 14th or 15th, depending whether you're here or in the UK, was discovered February 14th or 15th, 1997, which was a major big year for me. And her chart, discovery chart, is like this perfect Star of David. And this mini grand trine is at the points of her discovery chart. So
Saturn will be back where it was in 97. So that's one of them.
yeah.
Well.
Yep. I did a video on it. Maybe I'll do another one looking at Carrie Clo's chart and what we've got coming up, because she many astrologers who've studied Carrie Clo feel that she's helping us to, I describe it as, reweave or spin a new story of us, of who we are and how we work. And she's holding space for that. So, and has been since 97, which was the year I got married, my dad died, and I gave birth for the first time.
And you're coming up to the Saturn return of that. All right. Next year ought to be quite interesting.
Yeah. In fact, the very discovery day, Melanie Reinhardt talks about this a lot. The very discovery day was probably the very day I was at the oncologist with my dad, being told that he had terminal cancer. So, she's a cosmic midwife and doula in both ways,
Yeah.
not just a birth.
Well, that's profound. No wonder you feel a personal relationship with these.
I know. It's how
Everyone's
I work as
everyone's inspired to go look up, put the asteroids. Well, they're going to be listed as asteroids. If, for example, I use Kepler, so it's under the asteroids to put Ceres in your chart. And I don't know about other places. Or you could go to, I don't know where else you could go. You use AstroGold. It's easy to do with that.
In AstroGold, I don't think they delineate. They just put the symbols up. So I don't know what other software does. But and I'm quite disappointed because Astro-Seek is one of my favorite pieces of web software for searching and things. They don't have Ceres.
Oh dear.
I think I need to. I should write to him. Yeah.
Well, tell people your websites again, your Substack, your YouTube channel, all those things.
Well, my main website is louiseedington.com, so my name. I write as Cosmic Owl Astrology on Substack. I do daily astro updates, and I also have paid members or paid subscribers on Substack are part of the Spiral Weave membership, and they get an Ask Me Anything call every month. And I also am Cosmic Owl Astrology on Facebook, TikTok. I think I have somebody doing that for me with video clips, and Instagram. And yeah, you probably just search Cosmic Owl Astrology or my name and you find them all. But the publishing website is sacredthreadsimprint.com. Because I did not self-publish my first 3 books, I was actually paid to write them. So I learned a lot from them. They're kind of my calling cards. And this time I decided I wanted to do it alone. Very Ceres in Capricorn.
How appropriate. Well, I really appreciate you coming to talk with us. And I've read the book. It is beautiful. Everyone go get it. There you go.
And it's not really long, by the way. But
no. So we're hitting up the end of our time here. Thank you for being with us, Louise. Everyone, I'm at empowermentunlimited.net and the Professional Aquarian YouTube channel. See you again in 2 weeks. Bye.